What's up, geeks and gamers? Mike and I are back once again with another movie review, and today we're talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, we're just going to cut right through all the nonsense and we're just going to jump right into it. So, Mike, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on Shang-Chi and the
Ooh.
Legends of the Ten Rings?
Okay. It was a movie that I watched. And it was a Marvel movie. It was so I try to go into movies objective. I like to have I like to want to I don't want to have an opinion. I want to go into it, thinking my own thing, being able to make my own decisions about
Sure,
movies.
sure.
I
Yeah.
don't want things to be colored. It's hard for things like to be like objective with Marvel movies because Disney has an agenda. You know that
Mm-hmm.
Phase 4 has an agenda. You know that they're coming off of Endgame, and they're still Endgame was so hot, and a lot of what they're doing now isn't as good, isn't as well written, isn't as exciting as what we were getting before. All of that being said, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try my best to be objective, and but that absolutely changed the way that I saw this film. I had an okay time. It was more okay of a film than Captain Marvel, which isn't saying much. And I probably had a better time than I did watching Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I mean, it's just okay. It's not groundbreaking. It's not revolutionary. They do some interesting things. But this movie feels like it's kind of trying to be all things to all Asians. Yes, I said that specifically correct. It's trying to be all things to all Asians because this movie tries very hard to remind you that it is here for Asian representation throughout. There are some really great moments. All the actors, besides the main guy, Simu Lee, do a phenomenal job. I think even Aquafina, I don't like Aquafina in a lot of stuff. I think she needs really specific vehicles. She was good in this. I liked her character for the most part. But Simu Lee, who plays Shang-Chi, and his sister, like we're like watching, they just didn't do anything. It's not even that they're bad actors and actresses. They didn't do anything. They give them nothing to do. There's so little character development. It's a lot of things happening around them and them reacting to it. But the other part of this movie uses so listen, I there's a this movie uses so many fudging flashbacks. This movie, I'm not even kidding you. Every like 5 to 10 minutes, there's going to be a flashback. Sometimes they flash back to things that they already flashed back to and don't add anything new to the flashback. I'm like, what? I don't need another flashback. And then what they try to do is then they try to like make a thing happen. Like the later in the movie, they try to make a theme in the beginning of the movie come back ringing true in the second half of the movie with a flashback to show you more of what happened in that scene previously. So you didn't even know that you were supposed to feel that until the flashback happens. Without flashbacks, this movie's not good. And with the flashbacks, the movie is barely decent to watch, in my opinion. I know that I got a little heated. There's more, but I want to give you the floor to talk before I run away with this, because
Mike, you clearly haven't watched any Naruto because like literally all Naruto is just flashbacks.
don't
So
don't compare this movie to Naruto.
maybe that's what they're going for. Maybe they're like, hey, Naruto's an anime. That's Asian, right? let's let's play off of that a little bit here and go all flashbacky with it. I don't know. But no, I totally agree with you when it comes to, I mean, obviously that's kind of what identity politics is all about, right? Like trying to constantly remind you, hey, this is a woman. She's a woman, guys. She's a badass woman. Look at her taking on all these guys. Or hey, guys, look, Asians. Asians. Crazy, right? It's like it's constant all the time. So I totally I mean, going into this movie, the thing at the back of my mind was that obviously Simu Liu's comments that he's been making about a lot of the really stupid stuff that he's been saying, and about like how basically at this point he's saying that this is like the first Asian representation movie ever. Like he's like somehow some sort of pioneer in this, and he's just like really just paving the way for Asians to finally be in movies and stuff, which is just absolutely ridiculous and insane. But overall, despite all of that, my thoughts about this movie are pretty mixed, but I did enjoy this movie much more than I expected when I went and watched it.
You Disney shill.
I know. I'm just a freaking seller. I'm obviously an SJW now.
You
so
might as well just fondle Kevin Feige's balls right now. How dare you enjoy a Marvel film?
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. But can't cancel Josiah, I guess. But my interest in this film was almost at a zero when I went into it because of the comments that Simu Liu has been making and stuff. And honestly, I just haven't been really that excited about this movie. Like, even when they announced it, I was like, okay, I don't really care. But I quickly discovered things about this movie that I did like, though. I really like the martial arts in this film a lot. Honestly, like, I thought that they did a great job with making the martial arts entertaining to watch, really fun. And honestly, this is going to be kind of a hot take here, okay? I think that this is some of the best combat, like hand-to-hand fighting combat, whatever you want to call it, that we've seen since Winter Soldier. So that's a spicy take there, but
I do agree with that.
If we pretend the train scene, the fight, like on the side of the tower, both of those fights were great.
Yeah. If we pretend that Daredevil doesn't exist,
and
we only talk about the MCU movies, absolutely, you are 100% correct. The choreography in this is much better than anything we've seen. They do a good job of not doing a ton of jump cuts as well, which I appreciated. And they don't do shaky cam, which was really nice as well. Yeah, so I agree with that.
And overall, I enjoyed Shang-Chi quite a bit as a character. I appreciate the fact also, and this has been one of my biggest annoyances with the MCU for quite some time now, especially ever since like Thor Ragnarok. That was really the movie that I noticed it, and ever since then, it has really bothered me, and it has driven me up a wall. I appreciate the fact that the humor wasn't overused in this movie, and it didn't kill a lot of the drama scenes. I think that is something that bothers me a lot with a lot of the MCU movies that have been coming out recently, and not just in the MCU, but other franchises as well. But this film didn't really feel like it did it as much as it has been in the past, and I appreciated that about it. Because there were honestly some pretty good dramatic scenes in this movie, I thought, especially the father and son moments. I didn't think that Simu Liu being Shang-Chi, I don't think that he really brought a lot as far as that goes, but I can't remember the guy who plays the Mandarin, but
Tony Lang.
He was great, dude.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He was fantastic.
I might be pronouncing his name wrong, Tony Leung or whatever, but he brought it. He really did. I do agree with that.
And I think he really carried those father and son moments. I thought there were some pretty good mother and son moments. Didn't care so much about the sister and brother moments because honestly, I did not like his sister at all. To be honest, I didn't even really like Awkwafina's character that much either, but I really didn't like Shang-Chi's sister. I thought they kind of were like Captain Marveling her in a way, where it was like they were trying to defeminize her and make her seem like super tough. And so because of that, they made her boring and uninteresting and completely unrelatable.
There's literally, like she never loses a fight in the whole movie.
Yeah.
She literally she flat out tells you she's better than Shang-Chi. Even though Shang-Chi is literally his title in the MCU, the master of martial arts and the master of chi.
Yeah.
But she flat out says she's better than him. And this is the thing. Like they make a point of telling you that Shang-Chi is trained heavily by his father, by the Mandarin. He's trained by the Mandarin.
Yeah.
And the Mandarin who can punch through Iron Man's armor with his bare hands.
The guy who's been around for 1,000 years.
Thousands of years, so he could master every martial art. And she's like, they never let me train, but I watched.
Oh my gosh.
I did it, and I did it better.
Dude.
So they flat out she tells you, I'm better than everybody at this. And then
by
she loses the fight by watching.
Apparently, guys, all you need to do is just go watch some YouTube videos and you will be a master of martial arts.
You can be better at it than anybody because you listen, all of the hits and all of the combat training, all of that doesn't matter. As long as you can watch, you can be better than the other person. Go watch all the MMA fights in the world and then go jump in a ring. You don't have, listen.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Well, especially if you're a woman. If you're a woman, you'll be just fine.
Listen, I love I am all for strong female character. Michelle Yeoh's in this. Michelle Yeoh's completely believable. I had no questions. First of all, it's Michelle Yeoh, so like she gets all the street cred in the world. I mean, she's been around in action films for forever, but she comes into the movie. Not once does she put anybody down. Not once does she not need to remind you that she's a woman and she's strong. She literally comes into the movie and nobody questions that she's a badass because you know she's a badass.
And the dumb thing about that is she has powers, but that she's still more believable with those powers than Shang-Chi's sister is.
Yep.
Being someone who just watches fights and somehow is a master of it.
But they really make sure to remind you that his sister is a badass. Yep.
It was so aggravating.
It was annoying. They even give, as like I said, I didn't mind Aquafina, and I normally do, although they do give her a moment to make sure that you know that she's useful and that if she wasn't around, things probably wouldn't have gone well, which I didn't need.
Yep.
She could have literally just been his friend and helped the best way that she could, but they needed to remind you, listen, you also, without trying to spoil a whole ton, you too can become an expert marksman with a bow and arrow in one day if you believe in yourself.
Yep.
And when you see this scene in the movie, you will know because they flat out tell you what's happening.
Yep.
They flat out show what's going to happen. Yep.
Exactly. It's ridiculous.
This movie... this movie tries really hard to balance the whole like strong female characters, but also not wanting the male characters to look bad because they're Asian and you can see
them tripping over their identity politics.
Yeah, absolutely. Because instead of making good characters, they're trying to make everybody relevant and everybody important.
Yep.
And that doesn't work. And listen, okay, I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna say it real fast because I know we don't have a ton of time, but listen. Just off the top of the list, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa. How dare you disrespect the people that came before you that paved the way? Listen, there are a ton of other names of famous Asian actors that have paved the way for Simu Lee to do what he did. Yep. And for him to try to make it a big deal. Listen, he's not even the only Asian actor that has superpowers. Listen, Michelle Yeoh was in the MCU before as a superhero. Chloe Bennett, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Gemma Chan was literally played Minerva and Captain Marvel, which you probably didn't remember because nobody watched that movie. Jessica Henwick, who plays Colleen Wing in Iron Fist. Ming Na Wen. Mulan herself was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Listen, these people, Benedict Wong is a character. He's a wizard. He's even in the movie. And you're going to sit there and crap on all those people and talk about how wonderful it is that you're bringing the Asian representation to the Marvel movies. Literally, listen, if Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, with all the respect in the world, came out and had the balls to try to say that he's one of the first black actors that made it big or was leading these films, I would have punched him in his mouth. Yeah. I wouldn't have cared, but I feel bad now, but he didn't do that. So I'm not saying that, but it's the same exact thing. Listen, you markedly affected your movie because you ran your mouth and disrespected people. When you're gonna sit there and talk about how you're God's gift to Asian people, then everybody is going to measure you against the people that came before you, and you did not do a good enough job to put yourself in their circles. Being in a Marvel movie does not make you better than Jackie Chan or Jet Li or Donnie Yen or any of these other names. These people have been in the business forever. It doesn't even put you above Michelle Yeoh, and she's a secondary character in your movie. So like, don't run your mouth. Enjoy the fact that you got to be the lead in the movie. Enjoy the fact that you get to be an Asian man that's leading the charge. Enjoy the fact that you get to do a good martial arts movie with and playing a character that's considered the master of martial arts. Enjoy that. Don't try to make it something that it's not, because what it is not is you being the most iconic Asian character ever. You're not. Like, nobody even knew who Shang-Chi was until they announced it, and people went and looked it up on Wikipedia. Yeah. Shang-Chi wasn't even like the first big dude. The first guy was the Iron Fist. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the fact is, like, even this version of the Mandarin, listen, Tony Yuang, however you pronounce his name, I apologize if I'm butchering that name, did a great job. But the Mandarin Like they make fun of the name, they make fun of the idea. They said it was offensive. Shang-Chi originally his dad's name in the comic books was Fu Manchu. I get that they probably wanted to scrub that and pretend like that wasn't a thing. So they're like, no, his dad's actually the Mandarin. But like the Mandarin in the comic books still hands down is more powerful than his dad in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally the Mandarin in the comic books could punch through Iron Man's armor with his bare fists.
Yeah.
Like that dude without the 10 rings is one of the most deadly human beings on the planet. I did not feel like that was the case with his dad.
No. I mean, he really needed those rings.
He needed the rings to be amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen a scene. This is a slight spoiler. I would love to have seen a scene with him fighting without the rings. You never do. To show that he is a badass that has been alive for thousands of years. Because guess what? If you're alive for thousands of years and you're building this criminal empire and doing all this stuff, you learn a thing or two about combat. And then adding the rings makes you even better.
Yeah.
But that is not what they show in this movie. It literally is the rings.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Listen, I could go on about this. I could lose it. I'm not gonna. I'm calm. I'm good. I give the movie a C+ because the cinematography was decent. The music was okay. The acting was mostly good in most of it. I didn't have the worst time in the world. Also, they do some things that are different. There's no Skybeam. Spoiler alert, there's no Skybeam. Sorry if you love Skybeams, but they tried to change it up. I give them a plus for the effort, but it's a C. It was an okay movie. I would suggest if you have time this weekend to go see a movie in the theaters, go see this. But if you're not interested, don't waste your time. Wait till it comes out on video. Yep.
Yeah. As far as the actual movie goes, I'm going to give it a B. I was going to give it a B+, but it does have a brief appearance of Captain Marvel in it, and that brings it down to a B for me.
Ooh.
Plus, Simu Liu's running his mouth and stuff also kind of hurts the movie for me. It just does. Like going into the movie, I have that at the back of my mind, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth going into this movie. So I'm actually going to say don't go see this movie because of what Simu Liu has been saying and stuff. And I think that you don't need to go see this movie, but if you want to, I think that overall as a movie in itself, I think that it's a pretty enjoyable time. So with that being said, that's our review for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We hope that you enjoyed this review. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and we will talk to you in another video very soon.